Hey guys, welcome back to SM Locks. I'm Scott, and today it's not going to be a picking video. This is more going to be for how not to have a gutting disaster. No, so over the last couple of weeks, I've seen a lot of new guys come into the community, whether it be on Facebook or forums, and some of them are having some problems when they're gutting locks. One guy, I don't know how long he's been picking for, on Facebook, he had bricked a CISA. One of the driver pins fell into a hole in the plug. Problem was he had the key in the lock at the time that it bricked, so this will just be hopefully to stop you from making the same mistakes that I've made many times, and I'm sure other pickers have made many times, and many more pickers are going to make the same mistakes to come. So hopefully this can save you a bit of hassle or give you a wee bit of knowledge for how to fix something, or fix it before it goes bad. So we'll get it. I'm going to start off with the core from an American 1100. There's a lot of body there. So American locks, there's loads of videos online for disassembling and reassembling the cores from them. So all I'm going to do is just a quick example of what I do when I'm gutting them. So I've already taken the C-clip off. Plug follower, I think someone says that it's the same diameter as a AAA battery, don't quote me on that. So with these, if you're holding them the right way up and you put the key in and turn it 182 degrees, your key pins fall out, and then if you continue to turn it, your drivers will drop into the core, and you'll have problems. So what I do is, if I'm going to gut it 45 degrees, and always make sure that the actuator, the furthest away part from the back of the core itself, is the part that I line up for putting the follower through, and then it's just a case of slipping over the follower. You would need to do the same if you're doing it with a battery. It could be a bit of a pain because of the notch, but yeah, this is one of the little stumpy followers that I got from the crappy lock picker. I do apologise, mate, I know you're not grumpy. So yeah, just another tip when you're dumping key pins. Well, if you're taking the key out of the plug and after you've pulled the plug, keep your finger over them, simply because of the travel that they have. If you pull it out too fast, they end up jumping out and you end up with key pins everywhere. And then for dumping them, if you just cover every other chamber except for the pin that you're dumping, it just saves you from mixing pins up. It saves you from playing Mr. Fix It later. So yeah, and for pulling the driver pins out, either tweezers and just hold them above where the pin's going to pop out to stop it from spinning away, or hold your thumb over the end of the core and then tip the pin out. So for the American. This next lock is actually one I've been working on for a challenge lock. It's an unbranded Dimple Euro cylinder, but it's a great example of why to be careful, and why sometimes it's handy to have shims at hand. So with this lock, back here is a reduced diameter to the rest of the plug. It's a wee bit sticky, it's a challenge lock I've been working on. Again, with Euros, because you've got the notches for the pin that engages the cam. Again, try and keep them away from the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock position, because the pins will drop down even if you've got a follower up. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is, pro tip, well, it's not a pro tip but it's a tip nonetheless, is I've got fake document wallets for contracts and stuff for my other business. If you just cut a 1 centimetre wide strip, and then put your follower up against the back of the plug and just push the strip through with the follower and the cord. I just pulled it out, didn't I? Idiot. No, we're alright. Right, so there we go. There's a wee bit of jiggling. It doesn't work as well as a metal shim does, but it works. And you can see here, we'll zoom in a bit. You can see here this reduced diameter in between. So if a pin drops in here, the only option you've got is to turn it and let it fall out of the groove, the notch for the cam. If you've got a plug follower in and you turn it to that angle, all your pins are just going to drop in there and you're not going to know what's from what chamber. The other thing with this plug, being a great example for this video, is these notches cut on the bottom. I'm not too sure what the notches are for, but normally these grooves line up with a pin, so it's not an issue. But when you're pulling it out, if you've turned it past that 90-degree mark, because this dimple lock has reduced diameter pins, the pins fall into these grooves and it can brick the lock, and it just renders the lock useless. So it's something to watch and be careful with when you are gutting locks. Just, if you can, do a bit of research. If not, and you want to learn from it, just be careful when you are with what you're doing. So again, for putting it back together, it's a case of slipping this through all the way. I'm caught on a pin. There we go. So that's it through. Push your shim or your plastic a wee bit further past the follower. Just line it up with the back of the lock. Once it's lined up, push your follower through so it butts up with the back, and then when you're pushing the plug in and pulling the follower, just make sure that you pull that plastic back as well, because it overlaps. It can make it hard for the plug to fit in. Turn it a wee bit, get that in, and then just push, and then pull out the shim material and lock it back up, and the lock should work fine. Again, this lock is sticky, but being the challenge what I'm making, try to do this through the camera is not the easiest, but there you are. So the last lock is a multi-lock classic. It's a 5-pin, pin and pin. And the reason I picked this one is you'll see once I pull the core out. So we'll remove the plate on the back. There's 2 screws. Again, when you're loosening the screws, if you've unlocked it without a key, be careful when you're turning it. So we'll use this lock as an example for something else first. So when you've picked a lock, if you turn it to the point where the open part sits where the key pins are, you'll need to put something in to depress the pins so you can turn the plug because it will lock up with those pins. Again, I'm going to keep this at 45 degrees. It's to where the pins sit, and the reason for it is multi-locks have stumped me in the past where I've made mistakes. So on the back you've got this notch here for where a tailpiece would sit. You just need to be careful and make sure it's not sitting up where the pins are, because although the outer pins won't fall in, the inner pins will, and it'll block you for getting a follower in behind. So we'll grab a follower, line it up. And this is a stiff lock. It's because it's got grooves in the this has got to be a gutting disaster in there, I can tell you that. Zoom out. Because of the grooves in the plugs on these, they can be a nightmare to push out because of the way the inner pins sit. Oh, right, there we go. Yep, so gutting disaster. So what's happened is I've pushed the lock forward and it's locked up. What I was trying not to do, but you know what, it is what it is. So let's see if we can get it picked back out of this. So basically they've jumped forward a pin, and because I don't have a key for this lock, I've got to pick it to open. It's not really a big issue. I might end up needing to put it in the vise, but it's just made me look like a complete idiot. But then again, I guess it shows what I was talking about. With gutting disasters. And a deep false set, so I've just got one pin to set, one inner pin. I think, hopefully. Right, there we go. So that's it, picked back to open. I suppose that was a good example for the video actually. But yeah, what I'm trying to avoid, I do so plug follower in and just wiggle it a little bit, and don't do what I've done. So I'm just going to quickly dump these pins again, just cover the holes off the pins that I'm not wanting to dump. Right, so this plug, the reason I thought this was a great example is, so here are your normal key pins. So when I jumped forward, I had 4 pins that had fell into the previous. If I had a key, it wouldn't have been an issue, but because it's I don't have a key, it was an issue. I had to pick it out. But it happens. The reason it can be hard sometimes to pull the plugs out of the multi-locks is these grooves here. The inner pins drop into the grooves. Now these run all the way around. It's just one of those things. It happens, but you got the other reason I said about these plugs is, so here's your big outer pins. For 90 degrees to that, there's a set of 5 holes, and if you pull the core forward and the inner pin gets stuck and you turn it, your inner pins drop into these holes and lock it up. If you've got a key in when you do it, you've bricked the lock unless you drill out or peel back the strip on the top of the lock. If it's a Euro style, you would need to drill out the end caps on the chambers. If you don't have a key in, you can pick it out of it. I had to do it because I made the mistake, but it's hard to reach them. I had to modify a pick to reach them. So yeah, just be aware as much as you can of how the plugs are in the locks, what holes they've got, if they've got construction holes or if they've got additional holes like that, or just anything that can obstruct it and lock up the lock. It's worth knowing exactly what you're getting into if you can. Sometimes it's not possible, but when it is possible, if you can do that, it's a lot less hassle. Take your time when you're gutting. If you've not got a pinning tray or pinning mats, a bit of corrugated cardboard, and just fold it up. Or I was using a plastic tray for long enough that little files came in. So yeah, just take your time. If you can, do a bit of research, see what you're getting yourself into, so you know, especially if it's a high-end lock, an expensive lock, because if it's bricked and you don't have the tools to drill out a cylinder or anything like that, then you basically rendered it useless for yourself. I hope this helps. If you've got any questions or any suggestions or anything that you think that I could have added to this video, comment in the comment section. If you liked it, hit the like button, and if you want to catch more of the videos, subscribe. There's more coming up. I'll try and get more tips and tricks videos done when I can, but thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully see you next time.